The ayes have it. I call on Government Order of the Day number 2.
Oranga Tamariki, Repeal of Section 7AA Amendment Bill, interrupted debate on third reading.
Madam Speaker.
The third reading of the Oranga Tamariki Repeal of Section 7AA Amendment Bill, when the debate was interrupted, we were up to call number 4, which is a National Party call.
Madam Speaker.
Joseph Mooney.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to speak on the third reading of this bill. Madam Speaker, this bill is aimed to help Oranga Tamariki focus on its primary duties, which is the care and protection of young people, making sure they are safe from harm. Madam Speaker, the key point probably I would make at the outset of this is that ideally the government would have no role in raising children or taking care of children, but we want children to be in the care and protection of their own families, their own whānau, and their own communities. But unfortunately, Madam Speaker, we live in a country where that is not always the case. And Madam Speaker, pardon? We live in a country, Madam Speaker, where that is unfortunately not the case, and there are young people who are not cared for by their families. They are not cared for by their communities, and there is a backstop where the state has to unfortunately step in and take care of those children. That is the role that Oranga Tamariki does in very trying circumstances, Madam Speaker, in a very fraught and difficult area, but one that must be done because at the end of the day, a society that doesn't take care of its children is no society at all. Madam Speaker, every child deserves the same level of care and support based on individual needs and their safety and well-being put first before any other considerations. This, Madam Speaker, is designed to ensure that Oranga Tamariki is entirely child-centric and is making decisions that ensure a child's well-being and best interests, and that there's no confusion about that, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, some concerns were raised about this. I'm going to address those briefly. The biggest concern raised in submissions at the Select Committee were about the removal of strategic partnerships in statute as part of the repeal of Section 7AA. And that was also a key concern raised by the Waitangi Tribunal when they did an urgent report on this bill, Madam Speaker. I want to make it clear that the Minister had made it clear throughout, including at the outset, that the strategic partnerships framework would continue with those iwi and Māori organisations that wish to do so. There would be no change to the existing relationship that existed under the legislation, and that if any other wanted to take that opportunity up, they could do so. However, the Select Committee listened to those concerns that it wasn't going to be encoded in statute and recommended that in the repeal that aspect of it be retained. And Madam Speaker, the Minister agreed with that recommendation, and the bill we have before us today incorporates and retains that strategic partnership in the statute, Madam Speaker, to address that concern that was raised by the Waitangi Tribunal and that was raised by submitters. I have to say there was a little bit of disappointing politicking from the opposition who voted against retaining that at Select Committee, Madam Speaker. They have an opportunity to support the bill now and to support that, but I don't anticipate that they're going to do so, given the things they've been saying, Madam Speaker, which unfortunately haven't been based on fact. Madam Speaker, I'll just read a little bit of some of the provisions that are incorporated now in the retention of the strategic partnerships for the record. So it includes provisions such as providing opportunities to and inviting innovative proposals from those organisations, iwi and Māori organisations, to improve outcomes for Māori children, young persons and their whānau who come to the attention of the Department. Sets expectations and targets to improve outcomes for Māori children and young persons who come to the attention of the Department, and enables the robust, regular and genuine exchange of information between the Department and those iwi and other Māori organisations. I would surprise, Madam Speaker, if the opposition would be opposed to that. Isn't this what it is all about? This is literally what it's all about. The other thing that has been this is the Rawiri Waititi said should have left it alone. The point here that this strategic partnerships are being retained and are being kept, and it would be helpful, I think, if the opposition were clear in their communications that this is something they support, Madam Speaker. The other thing that's been raised as a concern, Madam Speaker, is a change in the reporting requirements, and it's not that was in Section 7AA. But I'm going to go through, Madam Speaker, the reporting mechanisms that that Oranga Tamariki is subject to. And it's actually, if you go through it, there's 7 different reports, Madam Speaker. I'm just going to list those now. Oranga Tamariki prepares and releases a range of regular reports, including 1, an annual report, which measures performance against standards agreed as part of their annual appropriations. 2, a quarterly report, which gives an overview of the progress Oranga Tamariki is making towards its strategic direction. The report provides measures against the Oranga Tamariki outcomes framework and appropriations, which among other matters sets out how the agency is making a difference for children and young people, tamariki and rangatahi Māori, and their families and whānau. 3, safety of children and care annual report, which reviews and measures the findings of harm for tamariki and rangatahi and care. 4, under Section 448B of the Oranga Tamariki Act 1989, the Minister for Children is required to report to Parliament every 3 years on whether existing legislation, government policy and other accountability documents are meeting the needs of children and young people, particularly tamariki and rangatahi Māori. In addition to those 4 reports, Madam Speaker, the Independent Children's Monitor is required to report on outcomes for Māori children, young people and their whānau. So I'll go through those. The first report is that at least once every 3 years, a State of Oranga Tamariki system report must include an assessment of outcomes being achieved for Māori children and young people and their whānau. The report must secondly, there must be an annual report on compliance with national care standards regulations, which must include specific information relating to the level and degree of compliance with national care standards regulations for Māori children and young people, and the impact of this on Māori children and young people and their whānau. Third, there must be an annual report on outcomes for Māori children and young people and their whānau, which must include an assessment of outcomes being achieved by the Chief Executive of Oranga Tamariki for Māori children and young people and their whānau, and the impact of measures taken by the Chief Executive of Oranga Tamariki in improving outcomes for those Māori children and young people who come to the attention of Oranga Tamariki. In addition, the report must assess the extent to which practices within the Oranga Tamariki system have regard to mana tāmiti and the whakapapa Māori children and young people, and the whanaungatanga responsibilities of their whānau, hapu and iwi, and the strategic partnerships that Oranga Tamariki has with iwi and Māori organisations. And there is an availability, Madam Speaker, for the Independent Children's Monitor to require information from the Chief Executive of Oranga Tamariki, to which the Chief Executive must respond, Madam Speaker. And I think it's worth also, Madam Speaker, just mentioning Section 4 of the Oranga Tamariki Act, which did not change, has not changed and will not change, and includes provisions such as the purposes of the Oranga Tamariki Act are to promote the well-being of children, young persons and their families, whānau, hapu, iwi and family groups by A, establishing, promoting or coordinating services that are designed to affirm mana tamariki are centred on children's and young persons' rights, promote their best interests, advance their well-being, address their needs and provide for their participation in decision-making that affects them. It is culturally appropriate and competently provided, that assists families and whānau, hapu, iwi and family groups at the earliest opportunity.
Order. It's getting a bit noisy and too often.
So I'll go on the Section 4, which sets out the purposes of the Oranga Tamariki Act, so that it must assist families and whānau, hapu, iwi and family groups at the earliest opportunities to fulfil their responsibility to meet the needs of their children and young persons, including their developmental needs and the need for a safe, stable and loving home. It recognises mana tāmiti tamariki, whakapapa and the practice of whanaungatanga for children and young persons who come to the attention of the Department. That maintains and strengthens the relationship between children and young persons who come to the attention of the Department and their family, whānau, hapu, iwi and family group and siblings, and promotes their best interests and acknowledges their needs. Madam Speaker, this is a sound, robust set of responsibilities that are encoded in legislation that have specifically referred to the importance of whakapapa, the importance of whānau, hapu, iwi, and the importance of strategic partnerships and Māori organisations. And Madam Speaker, I frankly cannot understand the opposition opposing this. With that, Madam Speaker, I commend this bill to the House.
I think it's funny how he says he can't understand why the opposition is opposing it, but the opposition is opposing it because it's not a good law.
And see how he just runs away after his speech? He doesn't want to be held accountable or talk about anything. But I also noticed in his reo, in his language, that he was talking about, I just lost my train of thought, how it's the responsibilities of the hapu or the whānau. Now, how are you going to direct that narrative if you don't have any te ao Māori knowledge or reo or language? So you're expecting the family who's not doing well to do that for you, that whakawhanaungatanga that's already lost. So you're putting on the responsibility to them again. You know what I mean? And I'm telling you right now, quarterly reports are just way too long. I want weekly reports what's happening with our children. I want to know what's happening and what are these reports talking about, just what sort of rohi or iwi they belong to. I want to know what's happened in the deterioration of the behaviour and all these other elements too. I want to know where our children are every day.
Yeah, I mean, and also, we've just lost workers for Oranga Tamariki. How are you going to uphold the services that you're claiming that are going to be preserved, even though Section 7AA is going to be repealed? Like, what a load of crock.
This is where he's clever, Laura, because he's gone, and the responsibility, if you listen to it, like the response, not trying to be, sorry if I was being disrespectful, but I was listening for key language, and he's like, the responsibility of the whānau and the responsibility of this. And a key, another element I heard was, and their siblings. So they are expecting not just one from a whānau, but more. They're already predetermining and forecasting for that.
For the Conservative, small government is, for the Conservatives, small government is when you have taxation without representation. That's their idea of small government. It's like you dilute the amount of voices from the public that are coming in to advise what officials should be doing. It's basically just big central government. And I'm saying that as a libertarian.
And they're predetermining that the siblings are going to come on board. I thought that was especially strange to put in that sentence or in that conversation, that you're expecting it. And then putting the responsibility of tiriti or waitangi to the whānau. Well, they don't have that. That's why we're here now.
Yeah, that's why we're here now.
Before, is we're going to do it again? Yeah, doesn't make sense.